welcome back everybody to another episode of Check This Out. Today we're going to find out if a truck driver can make Harry Potter's favorite dessert, or shall we properly say, favorite pudding. It's the one, the only, the stuff of legend, treacle tart. I know, if you are one of my UK viewers, you're probably saying to yourself, what the bloody hell? There's nothing special about treacle tart. We've had it around forever. That stuff is as common as fish and chips around here. Okay, I agree with you. But around here, it's something I've only ever heard referred to in British movies and TV. The first time I ever heard of it was in the 1968 movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. There was a scene in the movie where the evil child catcher was trying to lure children out of hiding with the promise of free sweets. And one of the sweets he was offering was, wait for it, you guessed it, treacle tart. Just to refresh your memory, here's a clip of that scene.
Children, where are you? I know you're here somewhere. I've lots of lovely goodies for you.
Jeremy mustn't.
Lollipops. And all free today. Cherry pies, cream puffs, ice cream, treacle tarts.
Treacle tarts and ice creams and all free.
Ever since that day, and any other time that I heard a reference to it, I always wondered, what the heck is this stuff? The pudding itself, as we currently know it, has only been in existence since the late 19th century, since golden syrup was invented in the 1800s. Treacle really just meant any viscous syrup that was a byproduct of the sugar refining process. Prior to the 17th century, treacle was used as a medicine. It was even considered very good for the blood and was therefore used in antidotes to poisons. Go figure. While reading the Harry Potter novels, I came across this mysterious dessert, pudding, once again. So I just had to look up a recipe and find out exactly what this thing was all about. First and foremost, it said I needed golden syrup, which was an absolute must, and which I didn't have any of. Next, I needed breadcrumbs. A lot of breadcrumbs. Really? That sounded disgusting. If I was making fried chicken, okay, but in a tart? Originally, treacle was the most inexpensive sweetener, so food historians believe the dish was invented as a way for peasants to use up leftover bread. That's just what occurred to me when I saw breadcrumbs. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I've been waiting since 1968, so love it or hate it, it's time to go make a treacle tart. Okay, here we go, treacle tart. Be my first one, maybe your first one also. First thing we're going to start with is a basic short crust. And for that we're going to need flour, butter, salt, and last but not least, lard. Yes, lard, okay? It's all right. Makes the best pie crust you ever had. And if you're not eating it every day, it's not even as bad for you as butter. So let's just go with it and go for the lard because that's what the traditional recipe calls for. Okay, now for the treacle filling, we're going to need the following. Golden syrup. Now, for a genuine treacle tart, this is a must. Here in the United States, we use corn syrup. This is not corn syrup. Corn syrup is kind of a one-note sweetness. This stuff, I've tried a little taste of it. It's almost buttery, kind of toffee-like, kind of caramel-like. If you try using corn syrup, you're not going to have a treacle tart because in the UK, this is called golden syrup, but also treacle syrup. That's where we get treacle tart from. So you really need to go onto Amazon or see if they have some of this in one of your import stores or something because, you know, usually I like to go with substitutions when I can, but this is one here I have a feeling we're just not going to be able to substitute. Next item, we're going to use the zest and the juice from 1 whole lemon. Now this is one I've been scratching my head over. This also calls for 1 1/4 cups of white breadcrumbs. I don't think I've ever used breadcrumbs in a sweet dish or in a tart of any kind. But they recommend don't use the store-bought breadcrumbs. Leave about 4 or 5 slices of white bread out to dry for a day or two, or toast it in the toaster and then give it a spin in the food processor, because they say store-bought ones just aren't going to work for this. I don't know. I'm just going with what the recipe says. And that should be about it for our ingredients. So now let's go ahead and get started with our short crust. For our short crust, I've got the food processor out here fitted with a dough blade so I don't cut that fat too fine. You can also use a pastry cutter if you have that, or even a couple forks, whatever your best method is for making pie crust. I'm going to use the food processor. So we're going to start off with 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now we just want to give that a few pulses just to mix the salt through. Now we're going to take 5 tablespoons of very cold butter cut into small chunks. And 5 tablespoons of our wonderful lard. Come on, get the lard out. Funny, right? Okay, now we want to pulse that and just get it into slightly smaller chunks. All right, there's what we got. We still have some nice chunks in there. That's what makes the flaky layers, because we're going to be putting our water in and it's going to be getting some more mixing in. Now we need approximately 1/3 of a cup chilled water, and we're going to drizzle in just a little bit at a time. Let's see if we need all of it or not. Now it's not holding together too well yet. We may need that, or maybe a little bit more. All right, let's see how that does. There you go. That's holding together nicely. And we still got some nice chunks of our fat in there too. So that's far enough. That's as far as we're going to go with it. So let's go ahead and get that out of there and get it bagged up, because I'm going to refrigerate it for about a ½ hour just so that butter sets back up again. Now that it's out of the food processor, this is what we have. It just looks like a loose mess. It doesn't really look like a dough at all. But once this dough hydrates, after sitting for about 30 minutes, as you can see right there, form this into a disc. And if you look closely there, you can see chunks of butter, chunks of lard. Those little chunks are what's going to give you the flakiness. Now let's just go ahead and make this into a disc. Still kind of falling apart, but I'd rather have that. Too much water will make your crust tough. So let's just go with that right there. Refrigerate it for about a ½ hour. After chilling for about 30 minutes, I've rolled this out to about 1/16 of an inch and probably more or less around 12 inches around. Now we're going to take that and put that into our tart pan. So first of all, we want to dock this crust a little bit. I call it poking holes in it, but it's called docking. All right, now I'm going to put a piece of parchment in there, and we're going to put some baking beads in there. I like these ones on the chain here. Some people use beans. These here make it easier for taking out, so I'll try to spread those out a little bit, get the whole thing covered. Now we're going to put that in a 375-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. It's been about 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and get these hot beads out of there, and then try to grab hold of the parchment. There we go, take that out. Now let's put it back in for about another 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, that was another 10 minutes. We got a nice light golden brown going there. We can just go ahead and set that aside, and let's get started on our treacle filling. To start our treacle filling, here's what we need. We need to take, well, treacle syrup, and that's 1 1/4 cups. And I'm glad I got 2 of those small bottles. I didn't realize how small they were, because I needed a full 1 of those and about another half again to get my 1 1/4 cups out of there. Then we have the zest and the juice of 1 lemon. Get that right in there. Now apparently we're supposed to heat this up until it's hot and runny, whatever that means. Because the thing that makes me nervous about this recipe is when this is hot, you're supposed to put in the egg and cream mixture. And where I'm from, you usually temper eggs before you put them into hot liquid, because I don't want scrambled eggs in my treacle tart. And apparently after this is heated up, you put the breadcrumbs in. Breadcrumbs, really? And I suppose that'll cool it off to the point of where it won't scramble the eggs. The egg is also mixed in with 3 tablespoons of cream, so we'll see how this does. Hot and runny. Well, it's runny now. To me, that looks pretty runny, and it feels kind of hot now, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And they said let it set for 5 minutes. And I'm all for that because I don't want to scramble these eggs. I guess at this point what you're supposed to do is stir in your 1 1/4 cups of breadcrumbs. Okay, there you go, there's 1 1/4 cups. Well, it's starting to look familiar now, like what I've seen in the pictures. Now we let that stand for 5 minutes and then we put our egg mixture in. Okay, so that's been our 5 minutes, and our breadcrumbs look nice and sweet. Now we have 1 egg and 3 tablespoons of cream. And you're supposed to stir this in fast. Okay, that looks like that's pretty well incorporated. Now this goes straight into our pie shell that we blind baked. Okay, in we go. Now that looks like about the right amount for this size. Now this goes right back into our 375 degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, there we have it. I went about 35 minutes on this one. The recipe calls for 20 to 25, but Lyle's, the people that make the treacle syrup, call for 45 to 50 minutes, and it seemed to be the exact same tart from what I could see of the ingredients and stuff. So I split the difference, went about 35 minutes on it, and it seems nicely set up. Well, let's let this cool off a bit. Apparently, this is supposed to be served warm with ice cream or clotted cream, but it's pretty hot right now, so we need a chance for that to set up and get down just warm, pretty close to room temperature. Well, I've let it come to room temperature, and I think it's time to try my first treacle tart after all of these years. So let's see what all the fuss is about. It looks like all the pictures I've seen of it. Now, apparently this is supposed to be warm, served warm, with some clotted cream, which I don't have, or some ice cream, which I don't have. So I do have whipped cream. So we'll put some of that on it. Okay, here goes nothing. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I tried a little taste of it before I put it into the tart shell, and it seemed a little gritty because of the breadcrumbs. But after it's been baked and the breadcrumbs have absorbed all of the syrup and stuff, it's got a slight lemon flavor to it. Not near as sweet as I thought it would be. By most accounts, everybody complains about this is a kid's dessert, that it's really overly sweet. But I don't see that. No, really, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Since this is Harry Potter's favorite, is it magical? Probably not. But it's pretty darn good. I think it's worth giving it a try. If you've always wondered about it, I don't think it'll disappoint you. If you like something that doesn't taste quite as sweet for a tart, like a pecan pie or something like that, I think you may like this. I'd really like to thank everybody for all of the subscriptions and all the likes this week. Showing your appreciation, that really gives me the motivation to keep on doing what I'm doing. So anyhow, thank you once again for joining me. Keep cooking, and we'll see you next time on Check This Out.